What is up, guys? Welcome to the Bearded Talk podcast. It's your host, Adam Mason. I am so excited for this one. We have a returner, Tyler J. Mccall, who is an Instagram and marketing expert and the founder of Follower to Fan Society, is coming on the podcast to talk to us. Without any further ado, let's just hear it from Tyler. Here we go. Tyler, how's it going, man?
I'm good. Adam, how are you?
Good. It is you're one of our few repeat guests that I've ever had. And I think honestly, it's just because you're one of my heroes. And so I always try and have my heroes on. So thank you so much for coming back on, man.
Gosh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so much has changed since the last time you have been on. And we'll get to that. But I feel like I always tell you, I'm like, I knew you when you were half famous, but now you're full famous. Like you've got staff and all this stuff, and we'll get to all that, but it's really fun. I wanted to kind of get right to the big thing that I feel like a lot of people ask me, and then I think at least a year ago or two, people asked you, and it was, can I make money on Instagram? And and how do you do that? And we'll get to that. But I wanted to. I looked at my personal stats, and I just wanted to share those with people. And I'm not a celebrity. I don't even have a K next to my following. I'm not. I don't have a blue check mark. I'm not verified. I don't have swipe up. I don't any of the. I'm just a regular Instagram guy, if you will. And I wanted to share that for the photographers listening and people creatives listening. Is for the last year, I have all this data. One, Instagram is my highest revenue source now, officially, as of 2 weeks ago. And my average revenue per wedding, which for wedding photographers in DC, this is a decent number, is $5,500. And so that's pretty good. And I don't mind sharing the math. We've done about 120K from Instagram alone in the past year.
Wow.
And yeah, right? It's pretty solid. And we're at a 40% booking rate for Instagram leads alone. So for a lot of wedding photographers, if they track their leads and conversions, if you get 100 leads, you might book hopefully 9 to 10 of those, and you'll have like a 10% conversion rate. But for Instagram having a 40% booking rate, for how people found me just through hashtags, etc. Now I no longer don't think that people can make money on Instagram. I'm like, nope, this is 100%. Sometimes it feels fun to play with, but I'm like, no, I'm a believer now. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I remember we had a coaching call, I want to say when you still offered coaching calls, so a while back. Yeah. And it was incredible, man. And so I just want to share that with you, see if you had any thoughts or anything like that. And and what do you think? I want to kind of check in and see what's happening since the last time you've been on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love hearing the success stories. I love hearing about people who are posting for profitability in their business. That's so exciting. And I also love that you are tracking that. I think that's a really big missed opportunity for a lot of business owners, because I think it's really easy for us to say something doesn't work. And then when we ask, if someone like a coach, for example, were to ask you for evidence or proof that it doesn't work, a lot of times people can't provide that evidence. So right. I love that you have evidence that this is working for you. And I love that your Instagram leads are so warm. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, they're super good. I feel like it's gotten to the point where people will be like, yeah, Sarah can come to our wedding. And I'm like, how do you know Sarah, my wife? And they're like, oh, we through Instagram. And I'm like, oh, yeah. It'd be like somebody be like, Tyler, bring Eric.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. And I think that also really speaks to the idea of showcasing who you really are, and showcasing your lifestyle and behind the scenes and all these parts of kind of what makes us business owners, what makes us entrepreneurs, what makes us creative. And I think, the first thing we can really talk about, and the change that's happened on Instagram since the last time I was on and we talked about Instagram, is I think we've really reached this age on Instagram, and also I think marketing in general, where consumers are so dang smart and they're so savvy, and they can see through the marketing magic, that if you are not willing to kind of show up as yourself and do so in a way that's genuine and true and honest and authentic, then it's a huge missed opportunity for you and your business. And I think now more than ever, we're in this age of people really want to do business with people and not as much so with faceless, nameless brands. And I think younger consumers are really contributing to this. I think Gen Z is going to continue to influence how people are making purchasing decisions. And as those people start becoming the people buying for their households, for their lives, getting married, but, investing in wedding photographers, wedding planners, whoever it may be, like, that's something that I think a lot of business owners need to think more and more about, is how they're showing up as themselves.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, I feel like 2 years ago, the conversation for a lot of people on Instagram and social media was, yeah, I guess I'll post a photo of myself, every once in a while, but I really want it to be about the brand. And the reality is you are part of the brand at the very least, and we would probably say even more than part of the brand. You are the brand. If you're the sole creator and the lead visionary, if you will, if you're the captain of the ship, then the brand is a reflection of what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And I think it's a balancing act that I haven't perfected. I think this will kind of be a lifelong journey for me, but this balance of the boundary between kind of how you exist in your business and outside of your business. And I think it's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially as entrepreneurs and creative folks. It's just like so much of our identity comes from our work. And I'm always trying to navigate that. But I think at the end of the day, what really makes the biggest difference, I think the people who are getting the furthest in growing their businesses are the ones who are the most willing to show up in their business and in their marketing and in their strategy in a way that's really genuine and true to them. So, for example, let's take someone like Gary Vee, who, first of all, you either love or you hate Gary Vee. I don't know many people who are lukewarm about him.
Right.
Yeah, right. I think that's really important because we can't magnetize people to us. We can have people who are attracted to us unless we're also willing to repel people and push people away. So Gary Vee does that so well. But also what Gary Vee does, love him or hate him, is he shows up as Gary Vee, right? Like, he's not showing up trying to be someone else. He doesn't have a fake persona. He's not like faking it until he makes it on Instagram. Like, he shows up as himself, F-bombs and all. So if you look at someone like that, who is like building this huge empire around him, around the personality of Gary Vee, and he's doing that in a way that's like true and genuine and authentic and is in line with his values and connecting intentionally with his audience, that's what it really takes. And we look all across the space, Gary Vee or Amy Porterfield or Jasmine Star or Tony Robbins, like any of them, it's because they're showing up as themselves. And then when you actually meet these people in person, which I've had the opportunity to do, to like meet these people, and especially in the online marketing space in person, and become friends with them, and you realize like they are literally just normal everyday people, and how you see them online is like the exact same way they are in real life. Like, they're not trying to be fake. They're not trying to pull something over on people. They're not trying to pull a fast one. Like, they're just real people who are just helping people and showing up as they are. And that, I think that's making all the difference online right now.
Right. No, I love that. Do you think, having said all that, as far as the personality and pushing it into the brands, do you still think there is a place for, I'll use the pizza place from Toy Story, Pizza Planet, right? Is there still a place for a business that's not necessarily tied to somebody's personal name? And if so, what does that look like in contrast to what it used to look like?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely still a place for that. I think the biggest difference now is that if a brand is going to exist without a face behind it, that the brand has to encompass some kind of personality, and that the brand has to exist in a way that is personified almost. And that because I think what it really comes down to is people need to build memories and connections and a relationship with the brand that are not rooted in the brand's desire to sell you something as a consumer. I think this kind of modern way of marketing that is really going to make the biggest difference and move the needle the most for businesses moving forward is establishing rapport, building rapport, establishing a relationship, and then nurturing that relationship with your potential customer or consumer from a place of shared values, shared stories, shared experiences, and supporting them in solving a problem, versus building a relationship that's simply rooted in a desire to sell them something. And I think, we can look at two companies or a few companies that do this and compare them. For example, Target versus Walmart. Target is much more intentional about creating a shopping experience and creating a moment for people to have a separation from their day-to-day life. And they do this in the way that they've recently redesigned their stores, by the way that they've laid out the shopping experience to create a more luxury department store experience, by the fact that they have staff that are more available. For example, some Targets now have a person working in the beauty section who is, like a beauty counter expert, like you would find at Macy's or Nordstrom, by having a Starbucks in the store, by having cup holders for your Starbucks coffee that fit onto the cart, by bringing in other brands and creating brand partnerships. Target is doing all these things to create an experience, whereas Walmart has stayed focused on low prices, driving the bottom line, and kind of going for a mass market. I think another great example is Chick-fil-A versus a McDonald's, right? Chick-fil-A, we know, actually makes more money per location than McDonald's does, and they're only open 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And they do that by creating an experience, right? Like, we're going there for the chicken sandwich or the chicken biscuit, which is my personal favorite. But you're also going there because you're going to be greeted warmly. They're going to thank you for coming. They're going to say, "My pleasure." They're going to be attentive. It's going to be quick service, right? And that's such a different experience from most McDonald's experiences. So I think we're going to continue to see these brands really pull away, who are creating experiences and then who are infusing those experiences and those stories into their marketing. And I think the thing it all comes back to is that they're rooting that marketing in their values and creating kind of these shared values experiences with their audience, instead of just creating relationships that's based in trying to get someone's money. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. I think even just, this is kind of strangely off topic, but also strangely on topic. It's like for Chick-fil-A, even the joke now, I feel like, as Aziz Ansari, one of the comedians, said that, he's like, "I still love those hateful chicken nuggets."
Right? Yeah.
And even for you and some of my other friends, it's just like, is it, the benefits outweigh the disadvantages? I don't know, and I think too, Chick-fil-A is I'm going to make a bold statement here. So forgive me, but Chick-fil-A is the Michael Jackson or the R. Kelly, and I know that sounds crazy, but it's a like divided mission, but a loved product. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I think people are really unsure of what to think about Chick-fil-A. And
yeah,
I think that's another really important business lesson that we can learn from Chick-fil-A, which is that people become unsure of you, and their support of you starts to waver when they don't know kind of where you stand, or when you're unwilling to take a stand. And it doesn't have to be on like a political issue even, but just in general, are you willing to take a stand in your business? Are you willing to believe in something and then speak to that belief in such a way that you will repel people? You will make people not like you. And that's so terrifying for business owners. But the great news is, when you do that, and you don't have to be a jerk about it, like you don't have to just say things to be a hateful person to say things. But when you do that, when you are willing to create the content and say the thing and take the stand that will push people away, you are also in turn pulling people towards you, drawing people in closer, having them more attached and connected to you and your brand, having them be more bought in. And I think Chick-fil-A is a perfect example where their unwillingness to really take a stand in either direction, or their inability, their fear around really speaking out about something, with how they are spending their money to support organizations that are anti-LGBTQ, like their unwillingness to really talk about that openly leaves a lot of consumers really freaking confused, right? Because for me as a gay man, like, I love Chick-fil-A and I love the experience of going to Chick-fil-A. And I know that most Chick-fil-A's are independently owned and operated. And I know that the owner operator of a Chick-fil-A that I may go to is probably incredibly open and affirming and supportive. And they could care less if I'm marrying a man. They just want me to come buy their chicken sandwiches, right? But then you see this like corporate decision that's happening. And I think the organization's unwillingness to really say boldly where they stand on this issue is one of those things that's going to kind of always have people confused about how they feel about Chick-fil-A. And I think for a lot of times as business owners, our fear, it really comes down to that fear of being judged or fear of being like pushed away. But then when we realize that we're literally always being judged, we've been judged since like the moment we started saying and doing things, since the moment like people around us could start forming judgments about who we were, how we were, and like we will always be judged no matter what. Why don't we just start showing up and realize that judgment's going to exist whether or not we do that thing? Like, for example, Insta stories. People are terrified to show their face on Instagram stories because what are people going to think of them, what they look like, what they sound like? Well, have you ever thought about the fact that not showing up on Instagram stories, people are already judging you? Like, I'm judging you for not showing up on Instagram stories because I think you should be on Instagram stories. It's like you're being judged anyway. So why are you afraid of something that you literally already experience on a daily basis? There's nothing to be afraid of.
Right. No, you literally just made me have a revelation talking about the Chick-fil-A. And neither Tyler nor I did plan on talking about Chick-fil-A today, but it is what it is. But the idea of, we say Chick-fil-A and a lot of us entrepreneurs, like you just talked about, fear-based omission of action, if you will, or just fear-based lack of action is because we want everybody to like us. But the reality is, everybody doesn't like you now. Like there's 7 billion people on the planet and no one yet has 7 billion followers on Instagram. And it's like only a portion of the population is designed to even enjoy your product one way or the other, even just based on the colors. Like people who love red to go to Target, even if it was just for that reason. And it's like that's already the division. But at the same time, I was talking to another entrepreneur today, and that's also the beauty. And like, I feel in the last 2 years since we last chatted that most of my couples, my clients, the people I serve are so much more in touch with who I am, and they get the vision. And, I had a bride say, Adam, I swear, if you take a photo of my ring sitting inside of my shoe or something like that, I will tell you to leave right then and there. And I was like, you're my favorite bride ever. Just because she knew that was not my vibe. But it took a lot of sharing that, because a lot of photographers, at least, I used to share what I thought would make people like me more. And then I realized if I just share me, the people that like me will be like, hell yeah, this is our guy. And I mean, again, we shared the stats at the beginning of the episode. The proof is in the pudding, and it's worked, and it's really cool, and it's really fun. And I think that it's important. It's like people are scared to have an action, but even by choosing not to act, they're choosing an action either way. And it's like, you might as well try showing up, right? You might as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, it's one of those things like, what do you have to lose at this point? I think, on Instagram, they've tried all the things. They've tried buying stock photos. They've tried using a copy and paste Instagram caption template. They've tried, following other people's like strategy and doing exactly what they said. And they've tried following exactly in line of post this and then post this and then say that and then say this. And it hasn't worked. And I think what most people need is they don't need another cookie cutter approach to marketing, is they need to learn how to market. And then once you know how to market, message, position, and brand your offer, anything is possible. Anything is literally possible. It doesn't matter the platform. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast or if it's Instagram or if it's a Facebook group or if it's a YouTube channel. Once you know how to market it, once you know how to position it so you can get it right in people's minds, so you are controlling the way they think about your offer. Once you know how to brand it so it's really clear how it is differentiated in the marketplace. Once you know how to message it so you can actually move people to take action around your offer, anything is possible. And most entrepreneurs, you think you need this cookie cutter approach to make Instagram quote unquote easy, but that's not going to serve you in the long run. It may help you in the short term get more likes or more follows. But I think a lot of people, especially creatives, we are in this because we are passionate about what we do. We have a vision, or we have a mission, we have a purpose for what we're doing. And I think a lot of us are in this because we want to build a legacy to either leave to, children or others, or we want to leave a legacy, leave a mark in our industry. And I think also we want to build wealth. We're not, I don't know about you, Adam, but I'm not just trying to make a quick like 100K this year, right? Like,
Right. Absolutely.
like I'm trying to build wealth and something that has staying power, because I see the mess that my parents and their friends got themselves into without building wealth. And I came from a family with no wealth, no generational wealth. Like we were definitely a family where, we were always struggling to make ends meet. And now I see, okay, if I want to build wealth, if I want to leave a legacy, if I want to have impact, if I want to grow this business, worrying about my likes on Instagram is not the way to do that, right? It's a bigger thing. It's a bigger conversation. And the results are there, right? Like you've had the results. I've had the results in my business, and my business, for folks listening who know my story, like grew up like crazy,
Exploded.
in the past months. Yeah. Like my business went from, we did like 70K in 2017 to almost $700,000 in 2018. Like in less than a year, we 10x'd our revenue. And that's ridiculous. It's crazy. It happened so quickly. And when people say, what's your secret? How did you do it? The thing that I always come down to is I literally was just myself. Like I just showed up as myself. I got really visible. I got really vulnerable, and I connected with other people. I built relationships with my mentors. I built relationships with my peers, and I built relationships with my clients. And I just kept focusing on the relationship, right? And that was the thing that unlocked it. That's the thing that made it possible. And we have success stories every week inside our community, the Follower to Fan Society, of like an artist who has like paid off all her credit card debt because she decided to stop hiding behind her art on Instagram and show up and tell the story about why she creates art. Or a mom who owns an Etsy shop who 3x'd her revenue last year because she finally decided to show up as herself and like tell her inappropriate, dirty mom jokes on Instagram and like magnetize her people to her so they're more willing to buy her stuff. Or a social media manager who quit her full-time job and replaced her salary in less than 10 months because she showed up as herself on Instagram and got rid of that whole persona of this shy, meek person hiding in the back corner of an office working in a cubicle, right? So those are just a few of the success stories. And like I could go on and on and on about these people who have, through showing up with confidence and then creating high value content that's focused on connecting with their ideal follower and then nurturing relationships and converting that follower to a customer, that's what's been possible for them. And guess what? None of those people are sitting there counting the number of followers they have on Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like followers and likes will not pay your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that answered one of my questions I actually had, which was, I feel like recently in the past 2 years. So for anybody who doesn't know, and we can kind of update people. Last time we had Tyler on, you were pushing to be an Instagram marketing specialist and expert. That was kind of the public facing thing. But you also did some consulting for brands as far as visual photos and stuff like that, and marketing and local companies back in North Carolina, right?
That's right. Yeah. I was in that phase of entrepreneurship where I was just kind of doing all the things.
Yeah, exactly. Because
what works.
It's so simple, right? And we'll get to this. It's, and I'm slowly trying to move out of this, and you are the person, you're the expert, you make the thing or you sell the vision or whatever, and then you get the paycheck. And it's like a 3-step process. And you're like, all right, great. This is what happens. But at the same time, and now you've mentioned this so many times on Instagram now, and it's like, oh, Tyler can make some money while he's sleeping. And that's great. Like you don't have to wait for a phone call at 9 p.m. to make an extra whatever amount of dollars.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the way our business is set up now, we have a membership site. It's recurring payments. Our customer pays us every single month, either on a payment plan or on a subscription type model for our business. And everything in our business is automated from the sales perspective as well. So we use paid traffic. We use automated sales systems where people can be served a Facebook ad, be invited to an automated webinar masterclass that I have. And then from that, they can enroll in our community. And that all happens behind the scenes in our business. So we're in a really cool place where we don't have to actively sell. Like the sales part of our business no longer takes our time. Instead, our time and energy can grow into growing the business, developing the business vision, and then supporting our clients right now, which is really exciting.
I love that. I could tell you spent a lot of time with some copy people and just working on your copy. I'm like, Tyler's got what he needs to say down pat. He's ready to go. The vision matches the execution. I love it. Yeah. And now too, Follower to Fan Society has how many staff members now, or how many staff people work for you now as opposed to 2 years ago?
Yeah, so 2 years ago it was like just me and not knowing what I was doing. Let's see. I think today our team is up to like 10 people, and that includes myself, my partner Eric. He and I are both full time in the business. Eric manages all of the fulfillment side of things, all the customer support, member services, and doing that side. And then we have some part-time folks, part-time customer service, part-time assistants, and then subcontractors who manage things like Facebook ads. We have graphic designer, on retainer, project manager, those types of people. So yeah, I think we're actually hiring like right now at the time of recording, we're hiring more this week. We're hiring some coaches, past students who are now going to coach our current students. So that'll be the next step in kind of building out the entire team of our business. So it's crazy. Hiring is like
insane,
really exciting and really terrifying all at the same time, but I love it. It's so exciting.
Yeah. What has been in the past few years, this is not necessarily an Instagram question, but what has been, the biggest struggle from a business side of expanding that much, from going from still selling the same thing by yourself to expanding this thing?
Yeah. So, excuse me. It's this really interesting thing that we're experiencing right now in our business. And I've talked to a lot of my mentors about this and other folks in the industry, people who are, multi-million-dollar a year revenue businesses. And we're at a really exciting phase in our business because we got to that multiple six-figure level quickly and really easily. Like we didn't have to do much to take our business from like 70,000 to 700,000 in a year. And I know that sounds crazy, or like you didn't have to do much. Like, I mean, we worked, but it was literally just finding a repeatable sales system that replaced me. So then, I wasn't actively doing all the selling. So that was the biggest change. So to get there was great. And it happened quickly. And I would say it happened pretty easily. To get to where we want to go, which is that probably, in a couple of years, we'd love to be at the $3 million a year in revenue mark. To get there, it's like a whole new level of WTF is happening. What am I doing? Like, I don't even know what to do next. Because, right, like getting over that $1 million hump, especially in this online marketing business or personal brand business, is really, really tough because a lot of the things that I have done before that I thought I would never have to do again, I'm having to do again, which means I have to get really uncomfortable in terms of spending money. I have to sacrifice profit and cut into our cash flow to hire and build a team and outsource aspects of the business, because the only way to get to over $1 million is to have a team that supports the business and that does things that I can't do, or that does things that I no longer have time to do. And to do that, that means I have to sacrifice profit. And our business, which was still really profitable, but take our business from like a 70% profit margin to like a 30 or 40% profit margin. And that's where it starts to get really scary, right? And you really start messing with cash flow, and you really start thinking about, okay, I have to be more strategic about what I have in the bank and what I'm using, how I'm using debt really creatively and strategically in my business to offset expenses for revenue that we're waiting to come in. And then it just gets to be this game, and it's fun, but it becomes very overwhelming. And it's this thing that a lot of people don't think about. And, when I was first like making big investments in my business, and that was like hiring a virtual assistant for 10 hours a month, like $20 an hour. And I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. Or like I joined a $15,000 coaching program and I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. Or then I joined a $30,000 mastermind and I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. But now I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, now I want to do all those things, and I have to pay my salary and I have to pay Eric's salary. And now I'm paying other people's rent, and I'm paying other people's cell phone bills, and I'm buying other people groceries. And we're building out this team, and I know it's what we need. My mentor, James Wedmore, always says, what if the reason you can't afford to hire is because you haven't hired yet, right? Like, what if hiring is the reason? What if once you hire, then you'll be able to afford to hire? And I just hear that in the back of my head all the time when we're hiring. But that's really become the thing that is the most kind of like juggling act and trying to figure out. And that's where I'm investing in mentorship and support and guidance and coaching around those aspects of the business. And And it's also the part of business that people don't really talk about because it's not as sexy, I think. But candidly, like that's where we are right now. That's what we're experiencing. It's like, okay, I thought I had everything figured out. And now we're in a phase of like, okay, cool. So all that money we're making every month, we're going to have to spend now to hire and to outsource. And also hiring, like y'all hiring an employee, you can't just like post a job today and have an employee tomorrow. It takes forever to hire someone.
Yeah.
So
time to interview people, everything. Like it's going to be tough. And I believe Gary Vee and a bunch of other people always say like hire slow, fire fast. And, you know, like even that, I at least for me, the idea of hiring a person, you know, I've had a VA before, but hiring anything higher than that, it's like, oh man, this is scary. And yeah, you have to make sure your numbers are right to, you know, make sure that you've got salary in the bank, hopefully. And the strategy behind all of that is incredible. There's a guy named Sean West, and he always says when it comes to money, because I know it's all the moves you're making are just exponentially larger than the moves you were making 2 years ago. Yeah. But in principle, it's the same fear. You know, it's the same driving force to also win. And it's like he always says, if you think $10,000 is a lot of money, maybe you'll make 1,000. And if you think $100,000 is a lot of money, maybe you'll make 10,000. And if you think $1 million is a lot of money, then maybe you'll make $100,000. And it sounds really weird, but the perspective is so true because it's like, you know, we literally said at the beginning of the show that base photography has made over 100K from Instagram in the last year. And it's like, you know, for some people, they're like, whoa, I just want to make my first 100K. And I'm like, my revenue goal right now, just as an entrepreneur, I'm like, I want to get to 500,000. Like that's my next big, revenue goal for a year. And again, there's definitely things along the way that people don't see. They just see that sexy number, but it's great philosophy from the rap game is more money, more problems. And it's like, oh, like, are you willing to spend 30K like Tyler did on mentor or coaching or a mastermind, and again, the things just get bigger, like things just get more leveled up. Like I booked my biggest gig, of my life a few weeks ago for a corporate client. And it's awesome. And it's so shiny and it's such a cool thing for a company. But at the same time, the expenses alone are going to be like similar to what you said. It's like 25, 30K. And you're like, I don't get to play with that money. I only get to play with 70% of this. And you're like, And that means that part of that is going to go to taxes and part of that is going to go to your SEP or your IRA or whatever. And you're like, oh, and it's still great. But I think people too are, again, like, people are scared to make money. That's a whole other topic, but
yeah. Well, it's also the thing of like, are you, and it's that big question of like, are you in this for like the short term flash in the pan, dollars right now, or are you trying to build wealth in your business? Like, are you trying to, a big question I heard last year, and I've thought a lot about, especially in this online marketing space, is, are you trying to build a business or are you just trying to build a funnel? Because there's a very different strategy for both. You can build a funnel that converts, and makes 6 figures or $1 million a year, but having a product or a service or a funnel that makes $1 million is not a business, right? Like it's not something that has staying power. It doesn't have legacy. It doesn't have you removed from the operation and delivery of that product or service. It doesn't have the ability to hire. It doesn't have the ability to be automated. It could literally disappear overnight if the Facebook algorithm changes, right? So like, are you building a funnel or are you building a business, right? And I think that's the biggest difference. And listen, for folks who are listening who are new to entrepreneurship and, you're in your first couple of years and you're like, wait, I'm just trying to like make sure I can pay my bills right now. Like, I get it. I was there, y'all. Like my first year in business, I lived off credit cards and my savings account. Like it wasn't always, all rosy, like 6-figure business and trips to LA to go to mastermind things. It wasn't always this fabulous. But I think what helped me get here was realizing that I could not stay in that mindset, that frame of mind with the same relationship to money as that struggling entrepreneur if I wanted to have the 6-figure or the 7-figure business.
Right.
And something again, my mentor, James Wedmore, talks a lot about this, is like, if you want a 7-figure business, you need to start acting like a 7-figure business owner today. Like, don't wait until you have the 7-figure business, because you're not going to get there, but start making the decisions that a 7-figure business owner would make right now. So if you're listening and you're like, I just want to make 100K this year, then what would a $100,000 a year business owner do? Well, they would probably get help. They probably would not be cheap and just trying to do all their business using their Gmail account. They would probably get like, a client management system. They would probably stop taking payments over Facebook Messenger, and they would set something up with an invoicing system, right? Like, that's what a $100,000 a year business does. So it's time to grow up a little bit and like spend a little bit of money, get a little uncomfortable, and set yourself up to have that type of business, and stop acting like someone who is just trying to run this business that's a hobby and that you don't really have any buy-in to, or you're not committed to it, because guess what? The business is going to be committed to you unless you're committed to it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, people, I easily could hear the fears of people even just listening to that and being like, but I don't know. And here's the sad part is that like Gary Vee always says this, and then it's just like the market or the client, they don't care. Like, honestly, like that, the clients don't care that you are nervous or that you haven't, taken the time to set up your invoicing system. Like, none of that. Like, be professional now. But for some people, that seems like obvious. And it's obvious that we need to get James Wedmore on the podcast because
totally should. Yeah.
I'm going to put that out into the air right now. Let's try to make that happen. Not being too serious. We're kind of serious for the first part, and I feel like we need to pick me up. I need to pick me up. No, I'm just kidding. No. What has changed in the last 2 years strictly on Instagram? One, obviously methodology, but then two, even just fun stuff. Like, I never opened up the sticker pack until 2 years ago or a year ago, and then they had like the questions and they had the polls, and I'm like, oh, now it's a little bit more accessible. Like, what has changed just in the app and using it?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is just the prevalence of Instagram stories, and the numbers don't lie. When we look at the stats now, we see that a majority of Instagram's daily active users are on Instagram stories. If you are not yet using Instagram stories for your business, there is still time to start using them. Just know that a majority of your followers are looking for you there. So just think about how much more you can connect with them if you were to start doing that. I think that's been the biggest change. And I think Instagram is really pushing us to use stories more by introducing fun new things like all these stickers. We have different polls. They just rolled out this week at the time of us recording this podcast. They just rolled out a new quiz sticker on Instagram stories, which is a really fun way to get your audience engaged and just get them used to engaging with your content. They've rolled out different options. Like, you can now link out to Spotify, which is really great. Pro tip: if you have a podcast, link out to your podcast episodes on Spotify. You can now and of course, IGTV didn't exist last time you and I talked on your podcast. So IGTV is brand new as well. So Instagram's really rolling out these new features. And I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing and that we pay attention to, what we're teaching our students as well, is that all of these new features have really shifted user habits on the platform. So for businesses that are maybe seeing decreased engagement, or they're not seeing as many new followers, or they're not seeing as much reach or impressions on their content from hashtags, that's not the algorithm's fault. It's not Instagram's fault. It's just simply a change in user behavior and in user habits, because users on Instagram have shifted their attention to stories. And I think a lot of brands are using the same strategies that worked 2 years ago of post a pretty picture in the feed with a bunch of hashtags. But unfortunately, that strategy will not really work as much as it used to for getting new eyes on your content or connecting with your audience consistently. And what I'm talking and teaching about now is the fact that the feed has really become a place where people discover you and then decide whether or not to follow you. Stories is where you connect with people and you convert them to customers. So I think that's one of the biggest differences that I've seen on the platform in the past couple of years.
I love that. What's funny is, even to this day, and I think it's because I have a business profile, or maybe Instagram just hates me, I no longer have the music feature, so I can't add.
It's a business profile thing. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. Should I just change back to a personal, or should I not care? I don't know.
No, don't care. No, stick with a business profile. I'm a big fan of the business profile for business owners, because I think a lot of time, I said this earlier at the beginning of our conversation, we can't change or fix or improve what we don't measure or track or pay attention to. And I think Instagram is one of those things where they put a lot of emotion into it. They make it mean a lot more than it really means. And that comes through in them saying like, Instagram hates me. The algorithm's out to get me. Instagram's trying to ruin my life. No one sees my stuff anymore, right? But when we look at the information, the analytics and the insights, we see that's just not true. Like their content is being delivered the same way it's always been delivered. People just aren't engaging with it because maybe your content isn't as great as it was before, or it's not what people are looking for anymore. So keep a business profile because we need the insights. We're business owners, we're marketers. We need data to drive our decisions. We can't just make marketing decisions. Also, I know you were joking, Adam, and I went on this tangent, but this is like a sidebar, right? Like stop making marketing decisions on feelings and emotions. Make them based on data and information that you're actually get from that real life feedback you're getting from your community online.
Right. No, 100%. So tell me about, so you've launched Follower to Fan Society, and that is incredible. And you can talk about that a little bit, but you've kind of reshifted things. So you used to have a Facebook group that was really, really active and really, really fun. And I believe you've either shut that down or kind of like sunset that and started something new. And tell me a little bit more about that and kind of the decisions why, and just what did that look like?
Yeah, so Follower to Fan Society is the signature product that we sell, and it's a membership site all about marketing strategy through the lens of Instagram. And for a while, I ran a Facebook group called the IG Advantage. I had that group for about 3 years. And what I saw happen over time is that group, first of all, I was not in love with that group. I wasn't committed to that group. And I think that really showed because there was really no one leading the conversation in that group. And it kind of just became a catch-all place for Instagram questions and people to ask like Instagram tips and things like that. And I've made a big shift in my business in the past few years. I've made a big shift away from the type of content I used to create and really started to better understand how I can better serve my audience through the content that I share. And also in my kind of bigger mission and vision for what I want to create in the world. And the thing is, my goal is not to be the type of person that teaches people Instagram tips and tricks. My goal is not to be the type of educator or thought leader in our space that talks about how to best optimize the hashtag sticker on your Instagram stories for more views. Because I think there's definitely a place for that, but that is not my gift to teach people. Instead, my mission, my vision, my goal is to inspire business owners to show up as their true, genuine, authentic selves, and then to infuse that personality into what they're doing online, and then to do this work of sharing on social media and building audiences and building a following, whatever that may be, with a core goal of converting people to customers or clients. Because I think a lot of times business owners get so distracted by the vanity metrics of social media in particular, and they forget that the followers don't matter unless the followers are putting money in your bank account. And they also forget that they're real people behind the screens. Like they're not just a number. They're not just like a robot. They're like a real human being that you can serve, that you can help, that you can support, that you can inspire, and that you can sell your product or service to. So to make that happen, I've started making some pivots in my business. And one of those was shutting down our free Facebook group, the IG Advantage, and launching a new community called Post to Profit. And the whole purpose of this group is to teach business owners how to thoughtfully and intentionally use Instagram in a really genuine, meaningful way to create and share the right kind of content, build the right kind of following, and then convert their followers to customers and customers to fans, and really get people out of this analysis paralysis, get people out of second guessing themselves, get people out of the habit of trying to copy and paste someone else's Instagram strategy, and also get people to stop paying attention to things like likes and follows and comments and start paying attention to conversions and conversations on the platform. So that's what we do. That's what we're doing now in Post to Profit. And this is all, just so you know, Adam, when I'm back on your show in a couple of years, we'll be talking about this again, because this is, just so everyone knows, in full transparency, like this is all the beginning of a very slow but very intentional pivot in my business that's It's going to take 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Building my business to where it is now, it took me 4 years, and I know where I want to be. I want to be an author. I want to be a paid speaker. I'm launching my own podcast within the next year or so, and to make that happen, I have to start the slow pivot. And I think this is like a sidebar. I think a really common, big, huge detrimental mistake that lots of business owners make is they treat their business like a speedboat instead of treating it like a cruise ship. And that is the fact that if you want to turn a cruise ship, you have to start turning the cruise ship way before you want it to be facing the direction you need it to face.
Yeah.
And a speedboat, you can just, turn the wheel right now and you can change direction. I think a lot of times business owners are so all over the place in their business, going from this offer to that offer to this audience, that it never works because people can't even identify you or connect you to something because you aren't even identified or connected to something yourself. So I know if I want my business to be in a certain place, maybe 5 years from now, I need to start making that pivot today. And you're going to hear me over the next couple of years. You're going to see my content start to shift on Instagram. We're testing a new offer this summer of 2019, to really test out this new concept. I'm building out a whole new framework that no one is talking about, no one is teaching, and I'm really excited about that. And this Post to Profit Facebook group is one of the very first things to start that pivot, which is really cool.
That's incredible, man. Well, we will definitely have you on in a few years, and we can check back in. It makes sense to pivot even more just to overall marketing and all of that stuff. I feel like you're the man, and you describe a lot of what is complicated to people in a really nice and simple way that is very, very just tasty. It's very easy for people to take in. So I think you do a good job at that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell me, just for fun, and feel free to sell a little bit. And I always like pinging just because I feel like the Follower to Fan Society has been your fun project the past years, and now it's like, it's the big dog at the moment, and obviously, like you said, it's going to pivot. Things are going to, whatever's after that or how that expands will be different. But tell me a little bit about Follower to Fan Society. Even just dive in. So somebody wants to come in and they're going to learn marketing through the lens of Instagram. What does that look like process wise when they join? What does that look like? It's a subscription based. So what does that look like if they were to be a member for 6 months or a year? Like, how long do people stay?
Yeah. So right now we sell annual memberships. This was an intentional shift that we made at the beginning of 2019, because we sat down at the end of 2018 and we looked at all of our students that had the most results and had gotten the most success since we opened the doors in October of 2017. And at that point, what we noticed is all of our success stories, the ones who had 3x their revenue, 10x their revenue, replaced their income, paid off credit card debt, whatever it may have been, were those that had been committed for a year. They were the ones that had shown up and they had been committed to putting in the work, making the content, being really intentional and thoughtful, and being and actually, doing it. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Like, people buy these online courses all the time and y'all like never log in, and then you complain about the course creator, right? So we were like, who are the people who got the result? They were the ones that have been in for a year. So we made the shift at the beginning of the year, which was a scary shift to make, because we were asking people to commit to us for a year. And not even that we're asking them to commit to us for a year, we were asking people to commit to themselves for a year. And I think a lot of times people are really terrified to do that. But what I also saw in my own business is my business completely transformed in just 12 months. And it was so, and there's this quote that says, we overestimate how much we can get done in a day, but we underestimate how much we can accomplish in a year.
Yeah.
And I really noticed that. So we made the shift. If someone wanted to join us, they'd have to commit to a year. You can either pay in full for the year, or you can do a 12-month payment plan, whatever works best for you and your budget. But once you're in with us, there's really 3 main components of membership. And I like to, this is my chance to kind of brag a little bit. I like to think that we have really perfected the membership experience for business owners in this particular community. And we do this through 3 main things. The first is the core content. So we have a complete training system inside the society. We call it the Follower to Fan framework. It's a 6-step system that takes our client from learning about mastering their marketing mindset. So we start, everything is rooted in mindset. Then we go into how to position yourself to sell. We help you get really clear on your ideal follower. We help you develop your story, and we help you develop your objectives. We also, all of our strategy that we teach is rooted in what I call values-based marketing. So everything we do comes from a place of connecting your core values with your ideal followers' core values, and building a relationship from shared values, shared experience, and shared stories, instead of building a relationship from a place of a desire to make money off of someone. So then we walk you through that. We talk about branding your Instagram. So your voice, your visuals, creating content, how to theme out your content, your brand voice guides, your brand visual standards guides, all of these things that a lot of people don't have. They're just kind of posting on Instagram, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But we give you a framework to work within. We then talk about expanding your reach and growing your presence on the platform, how to use hashtags, how to grow your following, how to engage. And then the last two big modules, the big trainings we have in there, dive into Instagram stories and Instagram Live and how to use video to influence your audience. And then we have an entire training, an entire framework around direct messaging, because direct messages are really the key to a successful Instagram strategy. And especially for creative business owners, folks who are in that, $50,000, wanting to get to $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year in revenue, you can do 90% of your business, 90% of your sales can be done in direct messages. And we walk our students through that process of creating content, of building out their own Instagram sales funnel, all these processes that they can do. And the coolest thing is, it just takes your hand and a smartphone. You don't need anything else to make it happen. So that's the core content. And then every single month we have continuity content. Every single month we roll out new content to support you in the implementation of the core content. So we put out, we have a monthly Q&A call with me. We have a monthly hot seat call with me where I give individual feedback to our members. We also put on monthly masterclass with a guest expert. And then we also do content guides every quarter to help you plan out your post for each month. And then we have a community, and that's the last component. That's our third C. So the community aspect is really key here. And I like to say it's one of the most supportive communities on the internet, incredible business owners, incredible support there. And that's the last part of the society. So folks can join. They have to go through my Instagram masterclass before they can get in. Like, you can't just go to the website and sign up right now. You have to go through this free class. It's about an hour long. And the reason we do that is because we want you to make sure you really buy into kind of the system and framework that we teach, so that when it comes time to enroll, which through the magic of, the internet, the doors like magically unlock for you after you watch that class. You know what you're getting yourself into, versus just trying to get you to sign up and buy something right now. And 3 months down the road, you're like, why am I in this thing for a year? I did not want this. Whereas the class really frames everything so you understand what the process is like and what you really need to be successful with marketing on Instagram.
So good, man. It's so exciting to hear about that. That's incredible. And I feel like it's amazing. Like, you took two bold steps. One is changing to year-long membership. And then two, there's still a barrier to entry, which is, hey, you have to go through this class in order for it to happen. So I think that's really cool. And I'm so glad that it's worked. It's obvious that your intentionality has been rewarded. And that's the best thing that can happen. So really, really cool. Last thing I want to talk about, just kind of fun. Last time we chatted, it was not the best time personally for you. You were in North Carolina, I believe, and then or Nashville? No, you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then
Carolina, yes.
Asheville, yeah. And then you moved to Chicago, but turns out you were moving back, and that's really cool. I'm always jealous of people who run location independent businesses, because I'm like, oh, it'd be really fun to just move wherever I wanted, which maybe we can talk about after this. But so tell me a little bit about that and what that experience is like, and just, what are you excited about for the rest of this year?
Yeah. So Eric and I moved to Chicago at the end of 2017, and it's been great. Like, Chicago is an amazing city, and there are so many things I've enjoyed about living here. I mean, first and foremost, having access to like a major airport has been incredible. And we're moving back to like not tiny, like, small city, North Carolina with like a regional airport that has, 12 flights a day. So that will be an interesting experience for as much as we travel. But I, Eric and I both, I think, have really felt really called to be somewhere else other than Chicago. And in particular for me, for probably the past like 6 months or so. So, Eric and I had the sweetest little puppy in the world. His name was Douglas. We loved him so much. And he unfortunately passed away very suddenly in September of 2018. And for me, I don't know what it was, but Douglas's death just like wrecked me in terms of being in Chicago and being here and like not feeling comfortable in our home anymore and not really loving the city anymore. And I've just been like, I've got to go. We've got to get out. We need to be somewhere else. And North Carolina is where I grew up. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. Eric and I met in college there. After college, we moved to Asheville. We were there for 6 years. And it just feels like home. And he and I were home for Thanksgiving last fall, 2018. And we were sitting at a hotel bar on the rooftop bar, and I looked out and I saw like the mountain silhouette with the sunset happening behind it, and I just looked at Eric and I was like, I have to be back here. I have to come back here. And that's what's happening. We're going back. We're buying a house. We're getting married in this fall in North Carolina. Like all these things are happening, and it's so exciting. I don't know if we'll live in North Carolina forever. We've talked a lot about a really big dream of ours would be being bi-coastal and having a home there, maybe a home in California, and, popping back and forth, which is totally possible. Anything's possible. We can make that happen. So that's what we're looking at doing right now. But North Carolina is just a magical place. Asheville is a magical place. And I'm just so excited to be back there.
I love it, man. What was your original reason for moving to Chicago? Just for fun? Or did somebody have like a gig out there?
It was just for fun. Yeah. Like Eric, I was working for myself. Eric had quit his full-time. He was in retail management before. He quit that job. We just wanted to change a pace. He really wanted to do the city thing. I was up for trying it. And we feel like we were kind of past the age of living in New York at this point because we refused to live in a studio apartment. And, we love San Francisco, but it was a little too pricey and a little too dirty for our taste, for my taste in particular. But I really feel like Chicago is like the perfect American city, except for the winter. But it has everything, like great transit, great food, great people. It's affordable, great food.
No, totally. I love that. It was really fun to see you guys move out there. And it was just like, I feel like Chicago, and this is going to offend everybody, but it's, maybe Austin is on the come up. I'd say Austin is pretty close, but like Chicago's the only city that like rivals an East or West Coast city with like just what everybody has and just the infrastructure and everything you said. And like, as a guy who grew up in a small town and I didn't see a Best Buy until I went to college, my affinity for, larger cities that can like get stuff done, but still be approachable and not priced out like New York or San Francisco. It's super cool. Chicago's great. I love that.
Yeah. And I'm going to miss like the fact that, I can order literally any food I want and have it at my doorstep in like 20 minutes. That's going to be really sad. Or like, the coolest thing, I'm sure you have this in DC, like I can literally go on like Apple's website and just get something like Postmated to me from Apple, which is crazy. I love things like that. I'm going to miss things like that, but it's fine. We'll be back there's lots of great food in Asheville, and more importantly, like some of the most important people in my life are all in North Carolina. So
totally
we're so close to those important people, which is really, really, really exciting for me.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. And when I move to Asheville, we'll be neighbors. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the house next to the house we bought is for sale. So you can go ahead and grab it. Do it.
Hey, well, that's not too close. We're not like next to each other. We're next to each other. So
yeah.
I love it. Well, Tyler, feel free to give a shout out. We've talked enough about Follower to Fan Society, but please brag about it as much as possible. And I just know I've had a big impact on my life from your Instagram training. And I know that Follower to Fan Society is even larger and more in depth. And so where can people go to find you and find Follower to Fan Society? And what's the best thing for them to get a response if they slide into your DM?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, of course, at Tyler J. McCall. The thing that's going to get the most love for me is if you share that you're listening to this episode right now. So take a quick screenshot of your screen or take a quick photo of you with your headphones in, whatever it may be, and tag Adam and I so you can see that you're listening, and that'll get you some love back from me. And then tylerjmccall.com/free is going to get you over to that free Instagram masterclass. It's available on demand because it's automated. So you literally go to tylerjmccall.com/free. You can pick a time. There'll be one starting within probably 5 or 10 minutes of the time that you go to that website. If not, there'll be some available later that day or the next day. Pick a time. Tune in, sit down, pay attention, turn off your phone, get your notepad out, take notes. It's about an hour and 6 minutes long. And then through that class, I'll tell you more about the Follower to Fan Society and then give you a chance to join us as well.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Another action-packed episode of The Bearded Hog, this time with Tyler McCall, one of my favorite return guests. And as you can see, things can change in just 2 years for you guys, even less than that time. I mean, for Tyler, he was kind of doing the contractor vibe, just helping people with their Instagram marketing. And now he still does that, but at a much larger scale. And he was able to scale up. And I love hearing his story of how he has done that. And it's just absolutely incredible. It's inspiring. It makes me want to freaking just start a big course and start, a university and a community. And we have the Bearded Talk community, and we have long-term mentorship, which is really cool. But it just makes me want to hang out with all of you even much more. So big shout out to Tyler McCall. Go follow him on Instagram and say hey. And guys, thank you so much for listening. If you would do me a favor, screenshot you listening to this episode and tag us on Instagram at The Bearded Hog and at Tyler J. McCall, as he mentioned before. I would love to know that you're listening. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much. Keep being awesome.